So to discuss the challenge of Simsub with modern video streaming services, Vice President of Cloud Platform at Broadpeak, Mathias Guille.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Hello. Okay, cool. For the record, I was born in 1987 and I knew about aliens. So, but anyway, so coming back to a slide deck, thank you so much everyone for being with me this morning. My name is Mathias. So as it has been mentioned, I'm working with Broadpeak. Broadpeak is providing solution for any kind of like TV service providers looking to build their own TV service. And today we are going to talk about Simsub. I'm not sure if you are like familiar with Simsub. We'll get into the details, but basically Simsub is what basically avoid Canadian subs to watch the ads, American ads during the Super Bowl, right? So we are going to talk about that. We are going to talk about where it's coming from, and we are going to see like how you can implement it on your own services. Okay, let's see. Here we go. So just to start with a quick agenda of what we are going to talk about today. Quick introduction of the context, why I'm talking about this and what kind of challenges we see around Simsub. Coming back to Simsub, we'll explain a little bit where it's coming from, what it implies, what are the requirements, the different conditions of implementing Simsub on the third part of the presentation. Then we will look at the different implementation, the legacy implementation, and what kind of implementation we see right now when you are looking to build a new TV service. And finally, we'll finish with some next steps, or like how basically Simsub can help you to actually find opportunities on having like a better monetization of your TV services. So what we have seen, I'm with Broadpeak since many years. I've been working in the North American market since 2015. And Broadpeak, basically, we have two kinds of customers. We have existing operators, which are looking to modernize the legacy TV service. These operators, they are using traditional QAM, basically cable broadcast, sometimes based on transport stream when they are like from the telco side. And this is kind of old-fashioned. And they want much more to propose an experience which is based on internet TV. And what they do now is like they basically renovate, they migrate to a platform which is much more based on IP HTTP. The reason they do that is to look for much more like a platform which is like cost-effective and which is much more in phase to what the customers and the subscribers are looking for. If you look at the overall trend of TV, I'm sure you know that pretty well. People are little by little shifting to what we call OTT players. People are watching Netflix, Disney. And so if you are looking to provide a TV service, you need to be able to propose the same kind of experience. That's what the incumbents are looking to do right now. That's one side of our business, and we have also a second side, which is like the new ISP players. In Canada, many of you are starting, like your broadband offering, and you focus with that, right? Like at first, you propose broadband, and that makes a lot of sense because that's what customers are looking for at first. And then little by little, again, you will see requests from your subs to also provide a TV service. And so you need, in that case, to build from scratch a new TV offering. And so the common ground between these two kinds of customers, these two kinds of markets, is like you need to build a new video service to deliver that streaming experience that everyone is looking for right now. It's web-inspired. The benchmark in that case will be Netflix, Disney, and you need to be able to propose the same kind of thing. And I would say the main characteristic on these services, it has to be multi-screen, meaning that people right now, they want to be able to watch TV, not only on the set-top box traditionally, they want also to watch on their phone, on their tablets, on any kind of device they can buy from Walmart. Roku has been very, very popular in North America. So it has to be really multi-screen. Your TV needs to be available everywhere. And the second also characteristic of that new service is it needs to be ultra personalized, meaning that like people expect also like to have a TV which is really close to what they are looking to watch. They don't want something which is global for every sub. And if you look at, like the difference between the traditional TV and QAM and the new generation of TV, which I'm calling streaming, there's a lot of differences between the two. And I think, like broadcast, it has its flaws, but it was also like very, very popular for many reasons. And one of the reasons was about like the fact that you didn't have any delay between the actual events and what you see on the screen, right? And now if you are looking at the streaming services, you typically have like 30, 40 seconds delay. And I'm sure you have experienced that maybe in some places. Actually, I have a good example of, let's see if it's going to work. It didn't work, but basically, I was trying to show you a video when you have people during the last World Cup, they were pranking the neighbors. And basically what they were doing is like they were watching on TV, on broadcast, a game, for instance, and they were like cheering, simulating that like a goal was happening. And you have like their neighbors, they're watching on streaming. And of course, they had like 20, 30 seconds delay. And what was happening at that time is, like, of course, people were pranked because, like you simulate a goal, so you expect a goal coming up, and the goal was not happening. So that's the kind of thing that you want to avoid, right? And so when you go to streaming, you try also like to mitigate that. Another problem of streaming is what you may notice is like if you launch 2 streams in the same household. Here we go. So that's the video I was looking to show you. Is like the people, like in that building, they were like simulating a goal, and then you have like people on the backyard. They are watching on streaming, and so they prepare themselves, like to cheer for a goal. They are pretty excited about it, and here we go. Well, it seems that like they are pretty happy. It's better with the sound, so but. There we go. So that's the kind of thing that like I don't wish you to happen for the next World Cup, basically. So that's one of the things that like you don't want to experience with streaming. Second thing is, of course, like the synchronization of the screens. Like if you are in a bar and you have like several TVs with streaming, the problem is like you cannot really synchronize the screen. So you may have like a few different screens with a little bit of delay between the screens, so it's not really enjoyable for the people watching. One of the other problems of streaming platform is not really scalable. Everything is based on HTTP, so it's point-to-point. So for one user, you need one stream, and so you need a big network capacity for that. And the last point is like broadcast has been implemented regulatory requirements since many years. Alerting system needs to be implemented in broadcast, blackout, of course, and Simsub. And if you look at the streaming platform, there's nothing in the standard. There is nothing really, there's no turnkey solution to implement this kind of requirement. Okay? All right, so now let's talk about the Simsub because it's one of the requirements that you need to implement in streaming. So the concept is a very Canadian concept. I'm working since many operators worldwide. Simsub is really, like specific to Canada. So Simsub is a little bit the cute nickname of simultaneous substitution. And the principle behind Simsub is basically for TV distributors, you need to basically force the change of an American channel to a Canadian channel when the same program happens simultaneously between the two networks. Okay, so you have like many networks involved from the American side, like the 4+1 channels, PBS, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. And just schematically, I was looking to explain to you, like the kind of experience you can expect. So let's imagine I'm in Manitoba. I'm watching Jeopardy on KR11, which is an affiliate from NBC. And right after Jeopardy, there's like the Toronto games, right, on KR11. Then in that case, because I'm on an American channel, basically the TV distributor is going to force me to go to the Canadian channel to watch the game on the Canadian channel and to experience also the ads from that Canadian channel. Okay? Then after the game, I'm coming back to KR11 because like there's no like simultaneous programming between the two channels. And so if we take a step back on that policy, it has been introduced in 1972, and it's still, like in place today. TV distributors still need to enforce that. And the story behind it was basically originally related to the people living close to the US border, of course, and they were accessed over the year of like American channels. And the problem is like, of course, like Canadian networks, they were paying for the rights of US programs, and they were missing ad opportunities and ad revenues, right? So the idea of the CRTC was really, like to make sure that like Canadian channels were able, like to get revenue. And the idea behind it was to promote local creation, really to promote Canadian content. And so if you look at the numbers that we see right there, they are pretty old. The last number I got was like from 2013, and we were around like additional revenue from Simsub of like $250 million. The problem is like, of course, this has its flaws, and one of the flaws is, of course, the investment of local content. Because if you think about it, the idea was to push local creation, but it's actually the reverse effect, because right now you have Canadian channels trying, like to promote American content, because we talk about American content. We talk about the Super Bowl. We talk about Saturday Night Live, these kind of things. One of the other flaws of that is like, of course, when you watch the Super Bowl, people are excited to watch the ads coming from the American channels during the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's really what is exciting. I don't really care about football, but I'm caring about the ads because they are fun, right? And so I think, Canadian subs, they want also to add that. And also you have like other effect when, like the Canadian networks, they also like at the last minute reprogram schedules because they want to have like more people watching their channels, and they use the Simsub to get the opportunity to get more viewers, right? Then after you have problem with programs lost. And one of the other problem is, of course, if the American channel is in HD and you substitute by a Canadian channel, if that Canadian channel is only in SD, then you have like a loss of quality for the viewers. So a lot of different controversies around Simsub, and you can, as a viewer, you can still make complaint to the CRTC. So you can go to the website, you can make complaint about it. So if you look at the conditions and requirements around Simsub now. So first of all, the Simsub events, they are planned in advance. Typically, like a week before the different events which need to be substituted. And you know exactly the exact time of the switchover. Okay, it's not something random. It's part of the schedule, and you need to be able to enforce that. The problem also is like some events are related to sports. And of course, in a sports game, you may have like extra time, and it implies that like you need to monitor the events because you really need to do the substitution at when the program starts and when the program finished, right? And so because of the live nature of sports events, you need to have people monitor and do the switchover. Okay, and the example I was taking is like, a couple of years ago when the Raptors were playing, with Philadelphia, at the last minute, Kawhi like hit that shot, and so you need to have like someone watching the game to make sure, oh, maybe there is extra time, maybe there is not, but I need to be able, like to do the substitution in that case. And then, of course, because Canada is very large, you have like multi-region specificities. You need to be able to use the right substitution. You have like local Canadian channels that you need to use based on where the viewers is located. So it's a lot of different conditions that you need to deal with. Then you have requirements, and the requirements are much more like coming from the experience of the viewers. The switchover from the American channel to the Canadian channels had to be seamless. Okay, for the viewers. The viewer should not touch anything. It should happen seamlessly. And it has to be based on the program again. The problem of like when you do streaming, you will see that like it may be complicated like to implement the right switchover at the right time because in streaming, again, coming back to what I was explaining when it's very hard to synchronize stream, the same thing happening for substitution. So you need to make sure that like the substitution happen based on the program and not on like the time from the player itself and the viewer. In terms of other requirements, of course, you will have data every week, and you need to be able to automate as much as possible the substitution. There's a lot of different slots that you need to substitute. So if you do that manually, it's going to be complicated. So you need to make it as automatic as possible, but you need, in parallel, to be able to manually override when you have extra time, for instance. So you need to make sure that you can apply a quick switch when you need to extend, for example, a substitution. And then after you have like other requirements. For example, as a TV service providers, you may provide linear channel experience to your customers, but you may also provide post-TV, catch-up TV, restart, or even cloud personal video recording. And all of that, Simsub applies also to all of this, right? So you need also, in that case, to implement a solution which takes that into account. It's mandatory for any screen. So we talk about phones, tablets. Simsub needs also to happen to every screen. And for TV service providers, especially for people doing greenfield, if you think about the requirement itself, you need to be able to enforce it when you start to have like more than 2,000 subscribers by BDU, by market. So it's something that we can discuss. So the way you get the data of the different slots, most of our customers right now, they get the data from Mediastats, a Canadian company, which is basically distribute every week a CSV file, which is listing for that particular market the different slots that you see for substitution. Okay? So one line equals one slot, and you see, for example, like let's take Saturday Night Live. You know that it's going to start at in that particular case, 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m., and it's going to run after, like midnight. And based on, the location, you may have to do the right substitution to the right channel, right? So every week you get that CSV file, and you need to be able to enforce all the different lines on that CSV file. You have like one file per market, because of course, like based on the location of your viewers, the substitution may be different. So let's review a little bit the implementation we have seen on the market. So few legacy examples. That's the way that like people were dealing with Simsub in the past. With satellite, we talk about broadcast, but satellite is more or less the same. People were doing, like unconditional substitution. So Bell Satellite was substitute, like all the subscribers nationwide, like kind of like a brute force approach. Show was doing something a little bit more conditional, and that involved, like some intelligence coming from the set-top box itself, the receiver itself, and that in that case, like you can enforce Simsub only on specific region. On cable, people were used to work with local splicers that you can schedule by a controller. And I am taking an example right now from a company called BCI. And the idea was like to schedule the substitution on the local splicer based on what you get from Mediastat. So that's legacy examples. And if you think about it, when you go to streaming, it's a little bit more complicated. And the first reason is because like when you do broadcast or satellite, the TV is on a set-top box. It's one device which is going to receive the stream, and so it's easy to deal with, right? But when you start doing streaming and when you start doing OTT, then like you need to enforce Simsub to any kind of screens. Again, like phone, tablets, people can bring their own device, their Roku, blah, blah, blah. So it's much more interesting to do that from the server side. And when you go to streaming, basically, what you are going to do is like you are going to use adaptive bitrate protocols, which help to have the right quality based on the bandwidth of each viewer. I'm sure you have experienced that, but if your bandwidth is not going well, you will have a quality which is a little bit lower, but at least the stream is still there, right? And for this, we use two kinds of protocols. One is called HLS, which is something pushed by Apple, so for iPhones, iPads, and the other one is Dash, which is a standard which covers, I would say, like all the different devices, And HLS and Dash, they have something in common, which is the use of the idea of a manifest. So when someone wants to start viewing a live channel, what you do is like the player itself is going to ask for a manifest file, and that manifest file is going to list the different level of quality you can get. It's also going to list the different video fragments that you can get from that stream, right? And in that particular case, you still need to implement Simsub. So the idea behind the manifest file is that you can manipulate the file, right? And so based on that, you can actually enforce the substitution, because in that manifest file, you can replace the video fragment of the American channel by the Canadian channels. So that's the way that we actually enforce Simsub for streaming platform. And so actually, when you start talking about this, you say, well, it looks very, very complicated. I need to implement like this kind of logic. But now, right now, what we have is like we have like services which can help you to actually implement and enforce Simsub in a few minutes. And the way that it works is basically you have that thing in the middle. In that case, I took the example of our service Broadpeak.io, but you have other services available on the market. And Broadpeak.io is like, what it does is like it's getting the manifest from the original American channel. It's getting the manifest from the Canadian channel. And based on some input coming from Mediastat, so we get all the information coming from Mediastat, we actually, by API, we do the manipulation of the original manifest of the American channel. And we do that per region. So if your viewer is in Toronto, if your viewer is in Montreal, we are going to do the right insertion, the right manipulation based on where the viewer is located. Okay? And the good thing about this is like, you know, it's really something that you can plug overlay of any kind of video service. Right? It doesn't have to be specifically to any kind of vendor or anything, because it relies on the concept of the manifest itself. Okay? Not going to go too much into the detail of that because it's very technical, but like again, like this is an actual example of how we do the substitution. On the HLS side, which is on the left, we use tags which are called discontinuity tags. And on the right side, which is the example of a dash manifest, we use the concept of multi-periods. So one period is the American channel, the second period will be the Canadian channel, and then we come back to the American channels. Hopefully this video is going to work, but here we go. So that's an example of the implementation we have like from one of our customers. And what I want to show you on that video is like how seamless it is for the viewers. So in that case, you know, like of course, this is an ad from an American channel, coming from Michigan. And you will see that like seamlessly we will switch over to a Canadian channel. That's real implementation that we have with one of our customers. It's a bit long. Yeah. With one.
A flicker of magic. It connects us, propels us forward like never before. It's quick. And it's powerful. It's what the future looks like when you put drivers in charge. With the widest range of electrified vehicles in Canada and more on the way, Hyundai is plugged into you.
So you see we're talking about Canada, and that's exactly what I was trying to show you is like you did not actually notice that substitution from the American to the Canadian channels. It happens seamlessly for the viewers, right? And that's what you need to enforce to for the CRTC. So to wrap up a little bit that presentation and to talk a little bit about the next step, if you think about like Simsub is one of the regulatory requirements you need to do for broadcast, but also for streaming. And if you look at building a new TV service, one you need to think about is like you need to implement the right technologies for regulatory purposes, but also for the experience you provide to the users. What I showed you before, like that seamless experience, is what you need to be able to target in your TV service. And so if you look to build a new TV service, first of all, think about the latency. You don't want your viewers to experience what I show you with this kind of prank. You don't want that. You are looking to do like low latency for your viewers. And actually, there is version of HLS and Dash able to do low latency and to have a latency, a delay, which is similar to what you can have with broadcast. Synchronization, if you want to synchronize the different players, the different screens in one household, you can also do that if you are able to leverage the Wi-Fi gateway you have in the home. Scalability, again, like if you build a TV service and it starts to be a little bit more popular, and I wish you that, you will have problems because like you have more and more people watching. All of them are going to be unicast streams, and it's going to have an impact on your network, right? So in that case, you can use technologies such as multicast ABR, which is the capacity to use multicast for HLS and dash feeds. And finally, for the regulatory, I think about Simsub. Simsub is a little bit, like of course it's painful to implement. It's a requirement that you need to enforce. So it's good like to use SaaS platforms which are actually shaped for that, so you don't have to think too much about it, and you have the capacity to put that on as an overlay of your platform. And to conclude, of course, Simsub for me it's a requirement that my customers need to enforce. And it's typically not something super hard, like they're not really happy about it because for like any kind of requirement. But what I'm saying to my customers is actually the fact that like you can start implementing manifest manipulation for Simsub, it can open new doors, because if you start being comfortable with the technology itself, you can use that also for blackout, or you can use that also for alerting systems, right? So it's kind of like with one rock you can kill two birds. You can also like use the same technology for other requirements. And then also the manifest manipulation itself, if you look at it, you can also use that for advertisement, right? I have customers right now, they start with Simsub, they do manifest manipulation for Simsub, and now they also look at doing targeted ad. And the concept of like manipulation of the feed, and then like for every single of your viewers, every single of your subs, you can actually target the ads which are being delivered to your subs, which is giving you, like additional revenue coming from the ad. The concept of manifest manipulation can also help you to create a new channel, TV channel on the fly. I have customers also in Canada, local ISPs. They want also like to build new channels for example, for the local hockey games coming from college. And with manifest manipulation, it's actually pretty easy to take the sports game, you put that in a channel, you build, a schedule with like maybe like interviews before, highlight afters, and you can actually propose local channels to your viewers. And this is actually super, super interesting because, as an ISP, you want to be close to your viewers, so you can actually propose something very personalized for them. That was it for me today. I think I have like 2 minutes left, so I can take any question if you have. We have also, like, if you're interested to test the implementation of Simsub very quickly, we have a playbook which is describing every single step you need to do to implement Simsub on your platform. I put the link right there, and there's a free trial of 30 days if you want to test it out. Yep.
Yeah, so just curious to know if your Simsub solution allows for dynamic changes. For example, sometimes what happens is unexpected events, either from the US channel, either breaking news or like a sporting event that goes beyond the normal schedule.
Yep.
So, and I guess if you could describe like how quickly can somebody go and make the change? Is it just a few seconds, like they would watch
absolutely,
TV? Yeah.
That's a very good question. Yeah, absolutely. As part of the requirement for Simsub, you need to be able to have that flexibility of changing, like the substitution at the beginning or at the end of the events, right? And so with our solution and with manifest manipulation, you can actually do that in real time. So if you see it happen, and you want to basically like to postpone a little bit the end of the substitution, it's just an API call that you do. And right away, we are going to adapt all the manifest of the viewers. So in terms of delay, you will see that like it may happen in few seconds. Okay, but if you think about it, like streaming is all about players, like downloading video fragments. Okay, so you may have like a slightly little delay based on like the size of your video fragments. Okay, because what is in the buffer of the player may have an impact, but at the end of the day, it's all about like a switch which can happen, like within few seconds. Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
Mathias Guille,
Thank you.
thank you very much.